The video, you don't realize how bumpy St. Louis highways are until you're trying to film a video. One thing about me is I'm gonna keep talking. Oh my god, there's a town called Emma in 4 miles. That's me. Why am I in 4 miles if I'm right here? Now let's merge like adults. They care about your money, they don't care about you. How do I start videos again? Hello? Hey there, thanks for stopping by. My name's Emma B, and today I'm gonna tell you why your clothes suck. I wish I was kidding. I'm not. I genuinely think most clothes now made nowadays suck. I'm not gonna be seeing my eyes on this video because it is bright out, and I got prescription sunglasses, and I like them a lot. It's my fall break right now, and I'm driving to visit my sister who goes to school in Kansas. So I am driving on some very flat highways. I have like 65 miles now on this highway still, so I have 65 miles to run my mouth. Also, I'm pretty sure that's when this highway ends and another one begins. So I'm pretty sure it's just continuing on the next highway going straight on this flat road. Occasionally there's like a soft curve and I'm like, wow, how exciting. Anyway, your clothes suck and I want to talk about it. I kind of needed something to entertain myself while I drive, and also I haven't done a yapping in my car video in a while, and I want to do more of these just because I think it's fun, and also a significant portion of my life is me just running my mouth. So let's make content out of it, I guess. I feel like anytime I talk about why clothing manufacturing sucks now, I just sound like an old person being like, back in my day. Because genuinely, I believe the majority of clothes, like we know this, that like clothes 100 years ago, there was a lot of care and attention and labor that was put into the design and construction of our clothing. Even people who wore mostly the same clothes every day. We often wear the same undergarments every day and that kind of thing. There was still time and attention put into them. I got to work with some archival clothing that got donated to Lindenwood's costume shop last year. And one of the garments that got donated was the bloomers that someone would wear under their corset. The bloomers had like embroidery on the neckline and around the hem of the little shorts. Really beautiful embroidery of butterflies on it, and the only person who would see that embroidery would be the person wearing it and their partner. Like, I just found that so interesting because nowadays clothing is seen as like, we now treat clothing as like a disposable kind of resource rather than something that should live with us as long as it lives. You know, even clothes from higher end brands now are not made as well, and it is sort of the reason that clothes don't last as long. When I say clothes don't last as long anymore, I don't mean they like biodegrade faster. That's certainly not the case because everything's made of plastic now. Polyester is plastic. We wear plastic clothes. I'm wearing a plastic shirt, okay? Like, I'm not exempt from this cycle of disposable clothing because, you know, we live in a society, like all those caveats aside, our clothing is not made at the same level of construction, but at every step of the way, manufacturers and brands, even the really high-end bougie brands or like designer brands, they are cutting corners. I don't know cutting corners, but like skimming the corners on every step in order to save a penny at each step on each garment, because when you're mass producing clothes, every cent, it adds up quickly. So like if a shirt takes $3 to manufacture using like all the steps that we consider like the most important, but they can save 5 cents per garment by going with like a looser thread count fabric. Yeah, the shirts are going to fall apart faster, but they're going to make thousands more in like profit without having to change the price for the consumer. And the consumer then is not aware of that because, I mean, it's not taught. Also, if you're like, Emma, this is a bougie car you're in. Yeah, it's my mom's bougie car. She let me borrow it to drive because I drive her old minivan. I love Bertha, but she doesn't get great gas mileage, especially for long distances. Especially driving one person in a minivan feels very silly. And so she let me swap cars with her for the weekend. So now I have her little zippy car. Oh, but I wanted to talk about like all the steps that go into manufacturing a garment, from like the very early stages of production to it being on a rack or it being photographed and put on a website to sell to the consumer. I feel like it's pretty well known that the majority of clothing that is bought in America, in other countries like America, are not made in America. Like, made in America brands are few and far between, and often out of the price range of a lot of people because there are certain labor laws that exist in the United States. Even if I don't think they're as good as they could be or as they should be, they are better than in a lot of other like developing countries that have been colonized. And then, you know, yeah, we don't have time for all that. I know I'm in the car for another 3 hours. We don't have time for all that. Dealing with the lighting in this video is gonna suck. Editing Emma, I'm so sorry. But when a garment is going to be manufactured, which manufacturing's name, let's talk about a pair of jeans. When you think about like vintage jeans, they're all 100% cotton. They're stiffer, get worn in, they get softer as you wear them, but they start out pretty damn stiff. Hello truck, please don't come over. I am just a little car and I'm just trying to pass you. When you think about like a vintage pair of jeans, the way that they were manufactured were 100% cotton. They're not super soft when you first buy them, but you wear them for a long time. You wear them in. They sort of form to your body a little better. They get really comfortable. You get a good pair of jeans, you wear them for a long time. The styles on them, there was often like top stitching details that could be unique to a brand. There was like a leather patch for the brand on the back waistband, and like each brand had signature like back pocket style. Like that was it. That's a really big thing. Often when recommending people, like teaching people how to look for vintage at the thrift store, you look at the back pockets of jeans. Like Wrangler, I know, has a specific butt detail, so does Levi's. Obviously, Levi's has the very like distinguishable back patch, but a lot of other brands do that as well. When a modern pair of jeans are being manufactured, the first step is picking out the fabric. So most modern denim have at least a small blend of spandex or some other stretch fabric in there. And it's a cotton poly blend, which again is plastic because it's cheaper to manufacture than straight cotton. That's how it is. I will say, as a fashion design student who has to pay for all her own supplies for her classes, I end up buying polyester blends pretty frequently when I have to buy new fabric because I can't afford to buy only natural fibers, even if I wanted to. And stretch fabric is really great for a lot of stuff. Personally, I would never wear a pair of like skinnier fit jeans that don't have stretch in them because I have a butt and I need to be able to sit down in them. But the higher the level of spandex, the faster they're going to wear out. Spandex stretches, and eventually over time, it's just not going to hold its stretch nearly as well as it used to. Also, anybody who doesn't do fashion stuff, textile stuff, you may have heard the term thread count when it comes to sheets. Thread count is the amount of like individual fiber strands in the fabric in a square inch. So the higher the thread count, the more strands there are. That doesn't necessarily mean the fabric is thicker. In sheets, it often means it feels nicer. Howdy, what a delightful little angle. What's up? So my phone died when I was filming this the last time. I didn't notice. I kept talking for like another 20 minutes. So originally I was like, oh, okay, I'll just figure out wherever the video cut off. I'll film the rest on the drive back from Kansas because I was driving back not the next day, but the day after. And then I fully forgot. And you know what? That's okay. I was having a good time hanging out with my sister. Now I am back in Bertha. It's been almost a month. I got a monster, which, you know, it may not be the best choice I've ever made. For the same reason that it's been almost a month since I started filming this. I'm in my senior year, and technically the class is called Mini Collections, but there's nothing mini about it. It is maximum workload. So the requirement for senior collections has always been 5 looks, but if you're going to be showing at either Omaha or Kansas City Fashion Week, the requirement there is 6, and most people do 6 looks. And then in the past, Mini Collections has been 3 looks, and it's the first 8 weeks, and then you have the second 8 weeks before the fashion show to like put the finishing touches on your garments. This year it is 16 weeks because they've received feedback that it's really hard to do all of your classes as 8-week classes because they were all originally designed to be 16-week classes that have just been condensed into 8 weeks, and it's difficult to do with that. We now have a 16-week mini collections class, which in theory is fantastic. I'm like, this is great. It gave me time. I was like, oh, I'm gonna like really focusing on tailoring elements and that kind of thing of like, what can I like really hone my skills on? And so part of my collection was designed around what sort of garments do I want to put in the time to really hone. And when I came in at the beginning of the semester, I had all 3 looks planned out. I did a bunch of work in preparation for the class so that I could really focus my time on it. First day of class, I come to find out, actually we're doing 4 looks. I'd already sourced all my fabric, which meant I sort of had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how do I add another look to this that fits with my concept? How do I make this happen? I was still trying to find my models. I've now found all 4 models, but you know, it threw a wrench in my plans. It made me really busy. I also got a second job as a fit model for a swimsuit company, which is super cool. And I want to do a video on it at some point, talking about like what is the job of a fit model, what is it like working as a fit model, and also talking about like the response I've had from classmates and peers as a plus size fit model. Because that's been interesting. I'd love to do a video on that if y'all are interested in hearing about it. I think that could be another good car chat video, because I can't actually do video of my job, partially because I'm not sure I really want to put a bunch of videos of me in swimsuits on the internet necessarily, and partially because I'm not allowed to actually show y'all some of the stuff that I try on for them. A lot of it is unreleased swimsuits. So I know about some of their stuff that they're going to be releasing in the next 6 months that I'm actually really excited for. I think it'll be cool. Anyway, I finally went through the other night and edited the footage. It cut off right as I was talking about I should wait until my turn signal's off, because that's got annoying trail. Now let's merge like adults. The video cut off when I was talking about thread count before, and about how the more condensed the fibers are, the more expensive the fabric's gonna be. But when you have a looser thread count, you're much more likely to wear holes through it. So anyone whose thighs rub together, you end up figuring out which pants have a higher thread count, because those are the ones that last longer and don't wear out in the thighs immediately. I've had jeans with a lower thread count that I then went through and patched in the thighs, which I've patched many pants in the thighs before. That's not like a new thing for me. I'm pretty comfortable doing it. You can basically machine darn crotch of pants if you're wearing through in the thigh with some extra backing stuff. And I did that to a pair of jeans that I had 3 separate times until there was basically no fibers, just the threads and the backing patches. At that point, I had to finally retire those pants. But a lot of people don't have the skills, resources, or time to be patching their own pants the way that I do. And so when their pants wear out, you're just gonna have to get new pants. There's not really a choice around that. That's a big thing that I think some consumers have begun to notice more with garments like jeans, because brands like Levi's, they've dropped their thread count. They've dropped, even in their 100% cotton jeans, they've dropped the thread count on them. And you'll hear people say like, clothes are not made like they used to be made. It's not just Levi's or fast fashion brands that are doing it. Every brand is doing it, because we as consumers don't value garment construction the way that we used to. And so if brands can find ways to decrease production costs without being obvious to consumers, especially right off the bat, because it may be obvious to a consumer down the road when their pants fall apart. Vintage version of the jeans that they have now and have had for years are still functioning and fine. You're not going to notice that until you've been wearing them, and then you're just going to buy a new pair. Planned obsolescence is not reserved just for the fashion industry. I see it a lot in tech, the way that certain named technology brands build programming into their phones to the battery life will start slowly dying significantly sooner than it actually would in terms of like technology wear and tear, but that's so that you buy the newest model. It is in brands' interest to do that as well with garments. Another way that garments will start to wear out sooner, like significantly sooner, that brands do, but isn't necessarily like a cost efficiency thing. It is what they think consumers want, and so that's what they're going to put out, is putting artificial wear and tear into pants. And so this is especially true for jeans. There are certain chemicals that can wear down the color of the indigo dyes that are done in traditional jeans faster. So you'll often see like light wash denim didn't really exist in the traditional sense until very, very recently in denim production, because you would buy jeans in that like strong blue wash, and that's the indigo dye. And the thing with indigo is, as you wear the garments and as you slowly wear the jeans down, they're going to get lighter as the topmost fibers get sort of worn away. A construction worker's pair of jeans, like the knees are going to be lighter than some of the other parts of the jeans. The seat's going to be lighter, but those jeans are still going to hold up. There are certain chemical sprays that can be used to wear down the appearance of the jeans much faster in order to like make the jeans look more worn in artificially. It's the same way that like companies will put rips in jeans because we like the look of worn in pants without having to put in the effort. I feel like now is a really good time to also put in the disclaimer once again that like I am not casting judgment on people for liking rips in their jeans without having to, like trip in each. Like I do pretty regularly. That one pothole on Old Side specifically, I will buy pants with rips in them and like pre-rips in them. I will buy from the thrift store and then add rips to them. I like the look of it. And like I don't fault other people for liking that as well. But a lot of those chemicals used to artificially wear down jeans, not only are they chemicals that end up in water supplies, but they put the workers at extreme risk oftentimes because, again, they are working for pennies per garment. A lot of times what happens is safety measures get ignored, or certain like PPE, they're not up to code, or they've been worn too long because maybe manufacturers require the employees to purchase their own. So you're going to purchase it one time and you're going to wear that protective equipment long after when you should replace it, because why would you waste money when you could be saving money in the moment? Especially people living in poverty, that's not always like a choice they can make.
That's a bigger conversation for another day. I am not the person who can lead that conversation, but just something to keep in mind is that it all has impacts.
It's a privilege to be able to make choices, but also like there are certain privileges that we in Western, quote unquote, more developed countries get to make, and all of our choices do have impacts. And if there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, yeah, we should still keep in mind those choices that we're making. I'm trying to think of what else I was gonna say, because when I went through and did the rough edit of the first half of this video, I wrote down in my notes app like sort of an outline of like what else I wanted to say or what I did say that just didn't get recorded because I wasn't paying attention to the phone that had died. Unfortunately, I am driving. The notes app is something that you read on your phone. I'm not sure I thought this through all the way. As I'm currently on the highway, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I'll see y'all in a minute. Okay, I'm in the parking garage, but I went all the way to the top level for you guys, and also because then it's easier to deal with the lighting. Right over my outline was missing a whole couple little chunks. I don't think I have anything else to say. Yes, I do actually. One thing about me is I'm gonna keep talking. So another thing with the fabric is the cutting of the fabric. And so the way that manufacturers, like mass manufacturers, cut fabric, it can vary. It is often done with like a laser or like a set of wire that does cut the fabric as somebody moves the stacks and stacks of fabric, because the larger something is manufactured, the more garments that are cut out at the exact same time. So it'll be a bunch of stacks, a bunch of sheets of fabric basically, and the pattern will just be marked on the top one, and then it is then all cut at the same time. This can lead to fit discrepancies, especially if you are doing something really specific or something with a lot of pattern pieces. It can lead to fit discrepancies, and I will say that is one of many reasons that brands will often default to fabric with stretch in it, is because if there is some stretch, there is more room for error. The margin for error can be wider, because when you're submitting like a tech pack, or like a brand is working with a manufacturing overseas, there will be a set margin for error for each of the measurements. So that includes like the overall bust measurement. What's the neck, like the neck hole? How much margin of error before you can't sell it at that size? Because let's say there is a ½ inch of margin for error in any size, that means the medium to large, there's going to be more than an inch of difference between whatever that measurement is for that margin of error. It needs to be more than an inch, or you're going to end up with a small and a medium that are the same size, because that medium can be ½ an inch larger and the large can be ½ an inch smaller. If there's less than an inch of difference, they overlap and suddenly your small is bigger than your medium. So that's all like technical mumbo jumbo stuff. But if you have stretch in the garment, you can have wider room for error because it will still fit a small if it stretches more at a smaller size, if that makes sense. I can't remember if I talked about stitch length or not. So stitch length is the amount of stitches per inch. It's similar to thread count, where it's often measured by square inch or that kind of thing. Stitch length is often measured by inch, but on machines, it's often just like a range of numbers, and then you can kind of dial between those numbers. So for example, the machines that my school has, the Berninas that we use, they go between 0 to 5. So 0 means that it's not moving anywhere, it's just going up and down in the same spot. And a 5 is the longest stitch length. Now, for mock-up garments where I'm testing a pattern, I use in between a 4.5 and 5, depending on what fabric it is and like how cooperative it is. But typically I default to 5 for sewing mock-up garments, because there's not necessarily like a need for longevity. And also I'm significantly more likely to need to seam rip a mock-up garment than a final thing. So naturally it's easier to seam rip because it's just easier to get in between stitches. There were some women walking by and they just looked at me in my car and we made eye contact. I don't know if they could tell because of my sunglasses, but we definitely did just make eye contact as I'm like yapping in my car. For a final garment, I typically use about a 2.5 for my stitch length, but that can adjust depending on what it is. For corsets, I often go down to about 1 3/4 to 2, because again, there's a lot of pull on those threads and I want them to be as strong, if not stronger, than the fabric itself. But stitch length, the amount of stitches per inch, the more stitches there are, the longer it's going to take, and the longer it takes, the more expensive it is. So extending the stitch length or using a machine that works faster, maybe not as precise, but works faster, is going to be better, not in terms of like the manufacturing of the garment. When I say better, I mean better for the bottom line, which I don't give a fuck about the bottom line. Like, I don't care. But that is what brands are looking at when they are looking at manufacturing clothes. They're not looking at making the best clothes for you. They don't actually care. They care about your money. They don't care about you. And they care what's going to get them the most money from you over the long term. The final thing is stuff like notions, which, if you're outside of the industry, notions are the different pieces that get added to a garment to finalize it. So this hoodie that I have on under my t-shirt, it used to have a drawstring in it. I think it came out in the wash at some point. That's considered a notion. The zipper on your pants, buttons, snaps, any sort of like added pieces to a garment that isn't the fabric or interfacing, those are all notions. All of those things are additional pieces to a garment. And if you can decrease the amount of notions, decrease the quality of the notions, and decrease how long it takes to add the notions to the garment, aka decreasing the wearability of it, because often if you don't sew in a zipper as well, the zipper is more likely to bust down the line, that all saves money. So it literally is every single fiber, every single step, every single piece of manufacturing a garment. If like there is a way to decrease the quality and decrease the production costs without us really noticing it, us as consumers, it decreases the longevity of the garment in terms of wearability. It certainly does not decrease the longevity of the environmental impact of those garments. Those jeans that I had that I altered to make fit me perfectly, that I loved, that I wore and patched multiple times, they're gonna sit in the landfill. And I did increase the longevity of them as much as I could with my abilities at the time, but there was polyester and there was spandex in them. They were stretch jeans. The cotton part of the jeans will certainly break down. Yes, there is recycled polyester in the market, but it's not recycled polyester from other fabrics. It's recycled plastic that is then incorporated and turned into fibers for garments. Now, I wish I had like a call to action to put at the end of this video that is like, this is what we can do. Here are steps you can take. I don't have any really. When you buy clothes, I mean, I'm always going to encourage people to try and be mindful with their consuming. Try and buy garments that you are going to wear many times over, that you are going to get use out of. Rewear stuff, restyle stuff. Like Halloween just happened. I try really hard to purchase stuff for Halloween that I'm going to rewear. The shorts I had in my Harley Quinn costume was the skirt from my costume last year that I've worn to go dancing, and I'm gonna wear them to go dancing again, just as shorts now. The Harley Quinn top, I admit, was an impulse purchase. I don't know when I'm going to wear it again. I am going to try and get wear out of it again. Maybe I'll go as Harley Quinn next year. I save money. I am also preventing garments from ending up in the landfill sooner. Clearly, I'm not perfect. Like, I don't think perfection is what we need to strive to, because that's just not possible under the current system that we live in. Because, you need clothes, and let's be honest, a lot of us are just trying to make ends meet. A lot of us are trying to get by. Things are rough right now, so doing what you can to take care of yourself and take care of your community, whatever that looks like for you in this moment, is important. And also trying to keep in mind the global community and what that looks like, and like, how do we take care of each other in the global community, and what does that look like? Even just like starting this conversation, my hope is that this helps people understand at like what level, how deep this goes. This like money hungry. It's just capitalism. And what's the theme of your video? Capitalism sucks, and I am upset. I fear that's the whole video. That's everything I was trying to say. Capitalism sucks. Here's the way it's ruining our clothes. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Toodles! Oh, I stopped at a rest area to pee because I really had to go, and the bathrooms were closed, but there were porta potties. Yeah, you can bet I held it and drove a little farther, do a quick drip. Hey, I got 69 miles left on this highway.